It started 6 months ago. Chloe wanted to launch a high-end luxury skincare line to boost her social media status. To fund it, Victoria had applied for a massive $10 million loan from Blackwood Capital, the largest private equity firm in the country. While auditing the loan applications, my jaw dropped. Victoria and Chloe had blatantly forged the company's valuation reports. They had fabricated offshore sales, inflated their inventory numbers by 400%, and used shell companies to hide millions in crippling debt. They were committing massive, high-level bank fraud, and they were planning to dump the compliance signatures under my name to make me the fall girl if things went south. One night, Amber came down to the basement, tossed a stack of papers onto my desk, and splashed her iced coffee right across my keyboard. "Make sure these are signed and filed by Friday, Sophia," she said, checking her manicure. "Mom needs the Blackwood loan approved before the annual gala, and clean up this mess. It smells like a garbage bin down here." I looked at the coffee dripping from my desk, then looked up at her arrogant, dismissive eyes. "Consider it done, Amber," I said, my voice completely calm. The moment she walked out, I wiped the coffee off my screen, plugged in an encrypted hard drive, and downloaded every single piece of evidence. The double ledgers, the forged signatures, the offshore bank routings. I didn't file the fraudulent papers to the bank. Instead, I sent the entire encrypted file directly to the personal email of Marcus Blackwood, the billionaire CEO of Blackwood Capital, along with my official forensic audit report. For 5 years, I was the invisible backbone of Garrison and Sons architecture. My father, Arthur Garrison, was a man obsessed with legacy, but his definition of legacy only included my stepbrother, Leo. Leo was a smooth-talking charlatan who didn't know the difference between a load-bearing wall and a drywall partition. Yet his name was stamped on every major project our company turned in. I was the one pulling all-nighters, calculating structural loads, and drafting complex blueprints while Leo took the clients out for golf. "You should be grateful you even have a desk here, Marcus," my father would tell me whenever I asked for a promotion or a share of the profits. "Leo has the vision. You're just a glorified draftist. Know your place." I stayed quiet because I loved design, and I was waiting for the right moment to make my move. That moment came when the city announced a bidding war for the Apex Tower, a massive $200 million eco-skyscraper project that would define the city's skyline for the next century. Winning this contract meant infinite wealth and ultimate prestige. I spent 6 months creating a flawless, revolutionary structural design for the tower. It was my masterpiece. But the night before the submission deadline, Leo sneaked into my cloud server, changed the author credentials to his own name, and locked me out of the project files. The next morning, my father called an all-hands corporate meeting. In front of the entire board of directors and local media, he announced that Leo had single-handedly won the bidding shortlist for the Apex Tower. I stood up, furious. "Father, this is a joke! Leo didn't draw a single line of that tower. He stole the entire CAD file from my server." The room went dead silent. Leo looked at me with fake hurt in his eyes, while my father's face turned an ugly shade of crimson. "Silence!" my father roared, slamming his hands on the mahogany table. "How dare you accuse your brother of theft because of your own jealousy? Marcus, you are a toxic cancer to this firm. You are officially fired, effective immediately, and don't bother coming home either. I am writing you out of my will. A petty, talentless boy like you doesn't deserve the Garrison name." Leo leaned over and whispered as I packed my things. "Thanks for the multi-million-dollar promotion, little bro. Go build a birdhouse or something." I walked out of the building with nothing but my personal laptop. But as I sat in the lobby downstairs, I opened a hidden encrypted app on my phone. They thought they had destroyed me, but they had no idea who I really was outside their little office. For the last 3 years, under a strict corporate pseudonym, I had been working as the chief structural integrity consultant for the City Building Commission. Because of my federal clearance, my identity was hidden from public business registries to prevent bribery. Every single multi-million-dollar project in the state had to pass through my digital signature before a single brick could be laid. And guess whose project was sitting at the top of my review queue? The Apex Tower. 2 weeks later, the Garrison firm hosted a grand groundbreaking gala at the municipal hall. They invited the city mayor, the top billionaire investors, and the press to celebrate the final contract signing. I arrived at the gala wearing a high-end, tailored designer suit. When my father and Leo saw me walking past the security line, their expressions turned into pure arrogance. "Look who crawled back," Leo laughed, holding a glass of expensive champagne. "Did you come here to beg for your job back, Marcus? Sorry, the waiter positions are already filled." "I'm just here to see the presentation, Leo," I replied with a calm, chilling smile. I wouldn't miss it for the world. My father stepped up to the podium on the main stage, flanked by the city mayor. "Tonight, Garrison and Sons officially signs the final execution contract for the Apex Tower, designed by our brilliant senior partner, Leo Garrison." The crowd applauded. The mayor picked up the golden pen, ready to sign the document. "Stop the signing!" My voice cut through the microphone from the back of the room. The crowd gasped and turned around. My father looked like he wanted to murder me on the spot. "Security! Drag this trespasser out of here! He's a disgruntled former employee!" "I wouldn't do that if I were you, Arthur," another voice boomed. The head of the City Building Commission stepped out from behind the stage curtains, holding a thick folder. "Marcus is not a trespasser. He is our chief structural auditor, and his word is law." The golden pen slipped out of the mayor's hand. Leo's jaw dropped so low it looked like it would break. I walked down the center aisle, stepping onto the stage. I plugged my tablet into the main projector, and the beautiful 3D rendering of the tower was instantly replaced by a chaotic web of red warning lines. When Leo copied my design files, I explained to the stunned audience, he only copied the aesthetic shell. He didn't copy the hidden encrypted balance calculations because he didn't have the administrative password. As a result, the blueprint he submitted to the city contains a catastrophic structural flaw in the foundation relays. If this tower is built according to Leo's altered plans, a high-velocity wind turbine shock would cause the upper 30 floors to collapse inward within 6 months. Chapter 5. Absolute bankruptcy. The billionaire investors in the front row stood up in a panic, whispering furiously. The mayor turned to my father, his face pale with rage. "Arthur, is this true? You submitted a defective lethal blueprint to the city?" "No, Your Honor, it's a lie. Marcus is forging data to ruin us," my father stammered, sweating through his expensive tuxedo. "The data is verified by federal engineering servers, Arthur," I said, stepping right up to his face. "For years, you called me a talentless leech while Leo stole my life's work. Well, today, your brilliant son just committed felony corporate negligence. Effective immediately, the City Commission is canceling the Apex Tower contract with Garrison and Sons." I pressed a button on my tablet, sending a live command. "Furthermore, due to systemic fraud and public safety violations, your corporate architecture license is permanently revoked. Your ongoing projects are frozen, and the banks have already been notified of your contract cancellation." Leo looked like he was about to faint. Without the Apex Tower contract and with their license revoked, their company was facing absolute unrecoverable bankruptcy by midnight. My father dropped his glass, the champagne shattering across the polished stage floor. He looked at me, his eyes begging. "Marcus, please, it's your family's business. We can put your name on the door. You can be the managing director." I looked down at the broken old man who had sacrificed his own son for a fraud. "My name doesn't need to be on your door, Father," I said softly, turning my back on him, "because tomorrow morning, the City Commission is handing the Apex Tower contract to my own independent firm. Enjoy the lawsuits." As the press rushed the stage, trapping my father and Leo under a barrage of flashing cameras and shouting questions, I walked out into the cool night air, ready to build my own empire from the ground up. Arthur and Leo thought they could steal my mind and throw me away like trash, but they ended up designing their own destruction. Today, their company is completely liquidated. Leo is facing a massive criminal investigation, and I am officially breaking ground on the safest, most beautiful skyscraper the city has ever seen. But the drama isn't entirely over. Next week, Leo tries to break into my private studio to steal the secondary phase blueprints to sell them to a corrupt foreign competitor. If you want to see how my advanced automated security traps him and sends him straight to jail, make sure to smash that subscribe button right now, leave a like, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. My entitled family smugly kicked me out of my own home, trying to steal my secluded $1 million lake house to turn it into my brother's new corporate headquarters. They changed the physical locks, threw my clothes into the mud, and told me that a low-level loser like me didn't deserve such luxury. But they forgot one massive detail. I was the master cybersecurity architect who built the house from scratch. So I quietly walked away, sat in my car, and remotely triggered a high-tech military lockdown that trapped them all inside with zero way out. For as long as I could remember, my family looked at me like a ghost. My parents, Richard and Eleanor, poured every ounce of their savings, love, and attention into my older brother, Brandon. Brandon was the loud, arrogant, golden child who went to an Ivy League school on my parents' dime, while I worked night shifts at a data center to pay for my engineering degrees. To them, Brandon was a future tycoon. I was just the tech geek who fixed their Wi-Fi. 2 years ago, after landing a high-paying job as a senior cybersecurity architect for a top federal defense contractor, I finally bought my dream home. It was a secluded, ultra-modern 3-story lake house surrounded by deep woods. Because of my profession, I didn't build a normal house. I built a high-tech fortress. Every window was reinforced ballistic glass. Every door had military-grade biometric smart locks. The entire property was wired into a central, encrypted AI server that only answered to my voice and my private tablet. It was my absolute oasis of peace. Until Brandon's startup business went bankrupt. Instead of admitting failure, Brandon told my parents he just needed a prestigious location to impress international investors and relaunch his company. And that's when my parents turned their eyes toward my lake house. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I came home from work to find 3 moving trucks parked in my driveway. My father was standing on my porch, and Brandon was already lounging on my outdoor sofa, drinking my expensive whiskey. "What is going on here?" I demanded, walking up the steps. My mother walked out of my front door, holding a box of my personal journals. "Ah, David, good, you're here. We need you to pack up the rest of your things. Brandon needs this property. The Lakeview is perfect for his investor meetings, and he's registering this address as his new corporate headquarters." I laughed, thinking it was a sick joke. "Are you insane? I bought this house. My name is on the deed. Get your trucks off my property." My father stepped into my face, his eyes cold. "We raised you, David. We gave you life. Your brother is trying to save his future, and you're being selfish over a piece of real estate. We already contacted a lawyer. Since you don't have a traditional family, you don't need a house this big. We're taking over." Before I could even reply, Brandon walked over, snatched my house keys right out of my hand, and tossed them into the lake. "Oops," he smirked. "Looks like you're locked out, little bro. Don't worry, we already had a locksmith override the manual deadbolts while you were at work. Pack your trash and get lost." My parents stood behind him, crossing their arms in solidarity. They didn't care about the law. They assumed I was too weak, too quiet, and too timid to fight back. "Fine," I whispered, taking a deep breath. "You want the house? It's all yours." I walked down the driveway, got into my truck, and drove down the road, parking right outside the property line where the thick trees hid my vehicle. I pulled my encrypted military-grade tablet out of my backpack. My family thought a local locksmith changing the front door cylinder meant they owned the house. They didn't realize that manual locks were completely useless against a hardwired automated defense grid. Through my tablet, I opened the master root directory of the house. I could see the live internal cameras. Brandon was currently throwing my custom-built desktop computer into the hallway closet to make room for his liquor cabinet. My parents were uncorking an expensive bottle of champagne to celebrate their successful theft. "Enjoy the housewarming party," I muttered to myself. I tapped the screen. Phase 1, isolation. Instantly, I cut off the external fiber optic internet connection and jammed the local cellular repeating tower on my property. Inside the house, all of their phones instantly lost signal. No data, no bars, no SOS. Then I initiated Phase 2, the trap. With a single swipe, I overrode the local electrical relays. Thud, 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 massive motorized steel security shutters slammed down over every single glass window and sliding door from the outside, plunging the entire interior of the lake house into pitch-black darkness. Through the night vision cameras, I watched the champagne glass drop from my mother's hand. Brandon jumped off the sofa, shouting in confusion. My father rushed to the front door, pulling on the handle, but the heavy biometric bolts had already slid into place. The house was now an airtight, inescapable steel vault. I tapped the microphone icon on my tablet, broadcasting my voice through the hidden, high-fidelity ceiling speakers across the entire house. "Attention! House guests!" My voice echoed coldly through the dark rooms. My mother shrieked, looking up at the ceiling. Brandon was frantically pounding on the front door with a heavy decorative statue, but the reinforced steel didn't even dent. "David!" My father roared into the darkness. "What are you doing? Turn the lights back on and let us out right now." "I'm afraid I can't do that, Dad," I replied smoothly. "You see, Brandon wanted a high-tech corporate headquarters, so I'm giving him a live demonstration of my security architecture. Right now, the ballistic windows are sealed, the steel shutters are locked, and the cellular signal is jammed. You are entirely cut off from the outside world." "David, stop this childish game!" Brandon screamed, his voice cracking with fear. "It's suffocating in here. Turn on the AC." "Actually, Brandon, let's talk about the AC," I said. I slid the temperature gauge on my tablet all the way down. The massive industrial HVAC system kicked on, pumping freezing Arctic air into the sealed house. "Since you threw my clothes into the mud, I figured you guys could use some time to cool down." For the next 3 hours, I sat in my truck, eating a sandwich, watching them panic on my screen. My father tried to use a crowbar on the back door, but the moment the sensors detected tampering, the house went into active defense mode. A deafening 120-decibel security siren started blaring inside the house, accompanied by blinding strobe lights. They were clutching their ears, weeping on the floor, completely broken by the very house they tried to steal. Once they were sufficiently terrified, I initiated the final phase. Using my satellite uplink, I contacted the local sheriff's department, reporting a high-level corporate burglary and home invasion at my address. I attached the live video feed of Brandon destroying my federal government-issued encryption hardware in the closet. 10 minutes later, 4 police cruisers tore up the driveway, their red and blue lights reflecting off the lake. I got out of my truck and met the sheriff on the porch. They broke in, changed my locks, and are currently inside destroying classified defense contractor equipment, I explained, handing him the property deed. The sheriff drew his weapon. "Can you open the door, son?" "With pleasure," I said, tapping my tablet one last time. The siren stopped. The heavy steel shutters slowly rolled up, and the front door clicked open. My family stumbled out onto the porch, shivering violently from the freezing air, their hair disheveled, completely traumatized. The moment Brandon saw me, he pointed a shaking finger. "Officer, arrest him! He trapped us! He tried to kill us!" The sheriff didn't even look at Brandon. He grabbed Brandon's arm, shoved him against the wall, and slapped steel handcuffs on his wrists. "Brandon Miller, you are under arrest for commercial breaking and entering, grand larceny, and felony destruction of property." 2 other officers grabbed my mother and father, pushing them down the steps. My mother looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "David, please, tell them it's a family matter. We're your parents." I looked at her, completely unbothered. "My parents died the moment you threw my life's work into the mud. Enjoy the federal holding cells. I hear the heating systems there aren't very good either." As the police cars drove away, leaving my driveway empty and silent once more, I walked back into my perfectly quiet, high-tech sanctuary. The locks were reset, the intruders were gone, and the fortress was entirely mine. My family thought my intelligence was a tool they could just steal, But they learned the hard way that you never mess with a cybersecurity architect's home. Today, Brandon is facing 5 years in prison. My parents' assets are being seized to pay for my property damages, and my lake house is more secure than ever. But the drama isn't over yet. Next week, Brandon's corrupt business partner tries to blackmail me using a fake leak of my government security codes. If you want to see how I trace his IP and destroy his entire life by midnight, make sure to smash that subscribe button right now, leave a like, and tell me your thoughts on this high-tech revenge in the comments below. See you in the next story.